Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, April 15, 2021. My name is Karen Bodenschatz. I serve as Associate Pastor at First Lutheran Church in Onalaska, Wisconsin, and this is my morning musing. So the Coffee with Pastor Karen Bible study, book study group that meets on Wednesday mornings at 6:30 in the morning. We just moved an hour earlier back to our original time this week. Just started reading this book, Love is the Way by Bishop Michael Curry. This is a book that I started to read. I've been reading it very slowly as I've been reading most of the books. And so we just read the introduction for this last week, and we were talking about one particular section in one particular paragraph that I want to read to you. I just lost my page. Let's try that again. And talk a little bit about it because it has been churning around in my head. So Bishop Curry this whole book is about, it's really about the people who raised him, the community that raised him, and his experience of that community. It's about the ways that the community loved him and how having that foundation of love, which he grounds in Jesus, helps us hold on to hope. And so the introduction kind of sets that up, as they do. And in the section called Chaos or Community, he writes this. Dr. Martin Luther King, who besides my father and grandmother is the human most responsible for my wearing the collar today, wisely said, "We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools." He was right in the late 1960s when he said it, and it's right in this 21st century. We can no longer afford the dynamic luxury of bigotry or the false hope of hatred. We must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, all of us children of God. As Dr. King also often said in this regard, we have two choices before us, chaos or community. And we found that dichotomy really fascinating because normally when we say what's the opposite of chaos, it's order, right? I mean, that's just kind of the way our world works, that chaos is the opposite of order and order is the opposite of chaos. And if we have chaotic times, or if we have a chaotic moment, or I'm looking over at my art studio, if the art supplies are rather chaotic because both my mom and I were working in there yesterday, the way I make it non-chaotic is to bring order, to put everything back, right?
I didn't get that.
But what Siri's trying to help. But sorry, Siri just really messed my brain up, my train of thought. But what Bishop Curry is suggesting, what Dr. King suggested, is that the opposite of chaos isn't necessarily order, but is in fact community. And I think they're right, actually, because if we think about what we are called to as people, followers of Jesus, if we think about the way that Jesus lived and calls us to live, the way that God set up God's people in the Old Testament, when there was chaos, the ways that we came out of that chaos was to form community. We think about that with the Egyptian slaves, or that were Israel, that was what Israel would become, or Israelites would become, and they would come out of that slavery. And the 10 Commandments is about how do we create community together? How do we live together as community? And each of the commandments is about the other, especially if you look at Luther's explanations. And when we think about what Jesus did, Jesus created community among people that were often ostracized from community, or on the outskirts of the community, so to speak. And as I began to think about my own growing up and the community that surrounded me, we all lived on Hemlock Way most of our growing up years. I think my family was the last to arrive on Hemlock Way. And then we were all pretty much grown, except for the Teeter family. They moved when we were young, still in like elementary school. But the rest of us, the Helds and the Gordons and the Muirheads and the Bodenschatzes, stayed until all the kids were grown. In fact, 2 of those families still have homes there. They were the foundation, the boundaries, the exploration. They were the core of my sense of self. It was the community that we built on that street, the ways that we celebrated and grieved together, got in trouble together, accomplished things together. I learned a lot about how to communicate and how to live with other people, how to lead, how to follow. And this morning, as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about how that community there on Hemlock Way provided a bay within a storm, or harbor within a storm. So I'm curious about what community looks like in your life, especially in this time of pandemic, and how community has helped or has hindered, and who were the people in your childhood that were community to you, and how did they help raise you? Community as the opposite of chaos is intriguing. I hope that gives you something to chew on today. We will see you on Saturday, where we'll talk about Sunday's readings and what they've popped up in my brain. Until then, be well, be kind, remember Christ is with you.